ಸಂಸಾರದಾವಾ ನಲಿಲಿಡಲೋಕ ತ್ರನಾಯ ಕಾರುಣ್ಯ ಘನ ಘನ ತ್ವಂ प्राप्तस्य कल्याण गुणार्णवस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् महाप्रभु की तन नृत्य गीता वादित्रमाध्यान् मनसोरसेना रोमाञ्चकम्पाश्रुतरङ्गबाजो वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीविग्रहाराधननित्यनाना शृङ्गारतान्मन्दिरमर्जनादो युक्तस्य भक्तांश्च नियुञ्जतोऽपि वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् चतुर्विधा श्रीभगवत्प्रसाद स्वादन्न तृप्तान् हरिभक्तसङ्घान् कृत्वैव तृप्तिं भजत सदैव वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् श्रीराधिका माधवयोरपारा माधुर्यलीला गुणरूपनाम्नाम् प्रतिक्षणा स्वाधनलोलुपस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् निकुञ्जयूनो रतिकेलिसीधै यायालिभिर्युक्तिरपेक्षणीया तत्रातिदाक्षात् अतिवल्लभस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् साक्षाद्धरित्वेन समस्तशास्त्रे उक्तस्तथा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभुर्यः प्रियैव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादाद् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायन्तु वंशस्य यशस्विसन्ध्यं वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणारविन्दम् 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 नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादिसतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय लक्ष्मी नरसिंह जय गौरनिताय 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 जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल
Jai Om Shnu Bhada Brahmamsa Pratikacharya Ashtota Shata Shishmatis Divine Grace Abharachana Rinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBT Bhaktivedanta Institute Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Shnu Bhada Brahmamsa Pratikacharya Ashtota Shata Shishmatis Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridasa Thakur Ki Jai Premise Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Dada Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Girigoro Dan Ki Jai Shri Vrajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Navadvipa Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Purushottama Chaitra Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samavrita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada Disappearance Day Ki Jai, Shad Goswami Ki Jai, Shri Gauridas Pandita Disappearance Day Ki Jai, Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari. All glory to assembled devotees, all glory to assembled devotees, all glory to assembled devotees, all glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Narasimhaya Namaste Narasimhaya Pralada Lada Daine Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha Siladankana Kalaye Siladankana Kalaye Tona Simha Paratona Simha Tona Yato Yato Yami Tato Nasimha Yato Yami Tato Nasimha Bahir Nasimha Rudaye Nasimha Rudaye Nasimha Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapate Sim Sharanam Prapate Tava Kara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Singha दलिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृङ्गा शवद्रीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे तव कर कमल हरे नाका अद्भुत सिंगार दलिता हिरण्यकशिपो तनुभृङ्गा केशवद्रीता नरहरिरूपा जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय जगदीश हरे जय नरसिंहदेव 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 जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज प्रहलाद महाराज जय प्रहलाद महाराज जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव लक्ष्मी नरसिंहदेव भगवान की
কৃষ্ণ দাসে কয়ে না মোরা হয় দীনা কৃষ্ণ দাসে কয়ে না মোরা হয় শ্রী রাধা গোবিন্দা প্রেমে সদা ये न बासी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये न बासी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे यानि यानि च पापानि ब्रह्महत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्या कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्या विष्णु भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशव सत्या कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदे देवी सत्यवत्याय नमो नमः तुलसी महारानी की
My desire also grant me residence in the precious growth of Shiva and Dharma Tham. Thus within my vision I shall always behold the beautiful paths of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me follow a Karo Danso's virtue. Please give me the privilege devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim in the love Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulasi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicate their life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the names of the demigods like Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuant to Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities and strength to chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritual activities, offering the Veda as fruity activities, karma, ganda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about glory of the holy name. 10. To not have complete faith in the chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments in understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer the most humble obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees, Lord. They are just as I trees who can fulfill to everyone, and they are full of compassion for fallen conditioned souls. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Jeto darpana marjanam pavamaha tavakni nirvapanam Shriya kairava chantrika vitaranam vidyavatu jivanam Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnarmita sadanam Sarvatmasnapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatra Pita Niyamita Smaranena Kalaha Etadishi Davakripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudevami Disham Yahajanina Nurakaha Trinatapi Sunichena Tarorapi Saishnuna Admanina Manatena Kirtanya Sadaharihi Na thanam na chanam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kamaye mama jammani jammanishvare bhavata bhaktir haituki tvai ayinanda tanuja kinkaram patitam mam vishame bhavam buddha kripaya tava pada pankaja sthita duri satesham vichintaya nayanam karadashru daraya vadanam kadgada rudaya gira Pulaka nichitam vapurkada tava nama grahane bhavishati Yuga itam nimishena chakshusha pravisha itam Shunya itam jagat sarvam govinda virahe name Ashirishava padratam pinnashtumam Adarashanam marmhatam karotu va yatha tatha va vitatatu lampato mat prana nathastu se eva na paraha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai.
Glory
To Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes fire of conditional life, a repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grants all benediction to human beings. Thus there are hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out kindness enables us to easily approach you by holy names. But I'm so unfortunate I have no attraction for them. One should chant holy name the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more taller than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant holy name the Lord constantly. Oh my Lord, I have no desire to commit wealth, nor did that be for women, nor do I want any number of followers. Only want your constant devotion service, birth after birth. O Samarnanda, I'm an eternal servitor, yet somehow I fall in the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death, and place me alone Adam the lotus seat. Oh my Lord, while my eyes be decorated tears of love flowing constantly when I chant holy name, while my voice choke up, or hair my body stand and recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling of separation and constant moment to be like a great millennium. Tears are flowing from eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and shall remain so if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally.
Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam ki jai. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai.
Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshumritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Soyam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Pachadesha Darine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Ti Namini Shri Varshabhanavi Devi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryo Jalape Madhya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktita Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dina Darine Rupa Nuga Viruddha Pasiddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaura Kishoraya Saksha Vairagya Mutaye Vipalambara Sambodhe Padam Pujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gaura Virbhava Bhumistwan Yadeshta Sajana Priyaha Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannathaya Te Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha Pancha Tattvatmakam Krishna Bhakta Rupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. Hey Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Jayatam Surator Pangor Mamamanda Matirgati Matsarvasvapadam Bhojo Radha Madana Mohano Divya Vindarana Kaupadurmadaha Shimad Ranakara Singhasanasto Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishtari Sevimano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsi Vada Tatastitaha Karsha Venus Nergo Pir Gopinatha Shri Yiftunaha Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishapanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Tatara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradi Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Satmasuka Praviksha Rakshariteshu Surabhi Rabipalayantam Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Paramasevymanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kanantam Aravinda Dalaya Taksham Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kantarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chantakala Savanamada Vamshi Ranangadam Panayakeri Kalavilasam Shamam Tripanga Laritam Nyata Prakasham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Anganyasya Sakalindriya Vrittimanti Pashanti Panti Karayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chimmaya Satuchala Vigrahasya Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Advaitam Achotam Anadi Manantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Pantastu Koti Shatavassara Sampragamyo Vayurathapi Manaso Munipangavanan Sopyasti Yapapada Simya Vichinta Tatve Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Ekopya Sarda Chaitum Jagadanta Kotim Yachakti Rasti Jagadanta Chayaya Danta Antantarastha Paramanu Chayantarastham Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Yad Bhava Bhavitatiyo Manuchastateva Samprapya Rupa Mahimasana Yana Bhushaha Suktaryam Eva Nikama Patitai Suvanti Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Ananda Chimmarasa Patibhavitapi Stapi Evan Jarupataya Kalabihi Goloka Eva Nivasati Kilatma Bhutto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Premanjana Churuta Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sateva Hitayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundam Achintya Gunaswarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami Ramadi Murtishu Kalanya Mena Tishtanna Navataramakaru Puvanishu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhava Parama Pumam Yo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Pajami.
Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. Anybody?
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor who is tending the cows, yielding all desire, in abodes built with spiritual gems, surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with a figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers beautified with the moon locket, whose two hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always reveals in pastimes of love, whose graceful threefold bending form of Syamasundara is eternally manifest.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universe as both spiritual and mundane.
Good.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure unalloyed devotion of the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth.
Very good.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the only tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after transcendental and betake themselves to the pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years.
He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore.
I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas, by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm, Goloka, with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confidants, Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa.
Very good.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Syamasundara, Krishna himself with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love.
Very good. Thank you.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in forms of Rama, Nrsimha, Vamana, etc., as his subjective portions.
Glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Janmadasya yata diviyad itaratas chartesu avigya swarat. Tene Brahma Hidaya Adikavahe Muyantiyat Surayaha. Tejo Varimidam Yata Vinimayo Yachachi Sago Misha. Damna Svena Sada Nirastakuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi. Anybody?
O my Lord, Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly or indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge onto the heart of Brahmaji, the original creator.
The original living being.
Originally. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth.
Very good. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. Dharma Puchita Kaikavocha Paramo Nimatsuranam Satam Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Sivatam Tapochayam Munanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimba Parir Ishvaraha Sadyo Hidya Rutate Chakriti Bihi Susubistakshanat. Anyone?
Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such a truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scriptures? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Very good. Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3. Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam Sukhamukad Amrita Javya Samhitam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam Mahur Ahur Raska Bhuvi Bhavakaha. Anyone?
O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls.
Very good. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, verse number 17. Shinvadam Swakata Krishna Punya Sravana Kirtana Hridayam Taksto Bhadrani Vidumati Suhit Sutam Nasta Prayesu Bhadresu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki Tadarajas Bhava Kamalubhadayasche Chaitaditadinavidam Sitvam Satvesh Prasidati Evam Prasana Manaso Bhakti Yogada Bhagavat Tattva Vigyana Samvisijayate Vidyate Hidaya Gratis Chidyante Samsaya Siyante Jaskarmani
To hear about Krishna from Vedic literatures or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita, it is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed to the devotional service of the Lord.
Fixed in the devotional service.
Okay.
All right, next.
By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished.
When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly.
Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of Asamsayam Samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Truth, Personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna.
Very good. Today is a very auspicious day. And we're going to celebrate it. Today we are completely paying off our mortgage. $2.6 million. However, how do we do it? I don't know. We did it by Krishna's mercy and the help of the devotees, and especially Bhakti Priya Devi Dasi, and so many devotees donated. If you haven't donated, please do it now, because the next step is to establish the deities in the new temple, which is going to cost a pretty penny also, because there was a major mistake made by the person who ordered the deities. But anyway, when there's a will, there's a way. So even though we have sometimes obstacles, if we are sincere in following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, Krishna shows us a way to solve the problem. No problem is impossible to solve if you have faith in Krishna and you chant the holy name purely with no material desires other than please the Lord. Then Krishna makes the impossible become possible. And this is one example of it. Okay, so today we are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 14, verse number 40, right? Praninam Hanyamananam Ninanam Akritagasam Strinam Nigrihiyamananam Kopitesu Mahatmasu Praninam, when the living entities, Hanyamananam, being killed, Dinanam, of the poor, Akrita Agasam, of the faultless, Strinam, of the women, Nigriyamananam, being tortured, Kupitesu, being enraged, Mahatmasu, when the great souls. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. They will kill poor, faultless living entities, torture women, and enrage the great souls. Whoa. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Demoniac activities are predominant when innocent, faultless living entities are killed Women are tortured, and the great souls engaged in Krishna consciousness are enraged. In a demoniac society, innocent animals are killed to satisfy the tongue, and women are tortured by unnecessary sexual indulgence. Where there are women and meat, there must be liquor and sex indulgence. When these are prominent in society by God's grace, one can expect a change in the social order by the Lord himself, or by his bona fide representative. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Well, I think we're seeing these symptoms right now. All you have to do is listen to the news, which is horrible, and just hear about what's going on around the world. This is very prominent, especially the innocent animals are killed to satisfy the tongue, and women are tortured by unnecessary sexual indulgence. Where there are women and meat, there must be liquor and sex indulgence. When these are prominent in society by God's grace, one can expect a change in the social order by the Lord himself or by his bona fide representative. So, that's why Srila Prabhupada appeared, to effect this change from demoniac society to a society of devotees. It's not an easy thing. He's given us the opportunity to participate in that spiritual change from demoniac life to spiritual life. So, we see how important it is to be Krishna conscious, to avoid all this unnecessary suffering, unnecessary calamities, these fires, and bad weather, flooding, all these things that are happening, war. We see it right in front of our eyes, but do we understand why it's happening? Well, the materialists, they have their theories, which are all basically wrong. All these things are happening because people have forgotten Krishna. They don't believe that Krishna exists. They merely go along committing sinful activities without any fear of God or respect for God, for Krishna, and or they make up false spiritual let's say practices based on their own sense gratification. These are difficult times, but even in the most difficult times, if we follow Krishna consciousness sincerely, we can be spared of most of the suffering that we see around us. Most or all of the suffering that we see around us. In a demoniac society, innocent animals are killed. You know how many animals are killed in the United States every year? The number is up on those boards. They kill 55 billion animals a year to satisfy the perverted tongue of the meat eaters. 55 billion. You know what that means, to kill 55 billion animals? It's a huge industry. And it's going on as if it's a necessity. It's not a necessity to eat meat. It's a complete violation of Krishna's instructions on how to live a clean life. no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication. But yet, these things, although 5,000 years ago Krishna warned people not to engage in those four sinful activities, still, today it's part of society. You try and convince a meat eater not to eat meat, they'll just laugh. They just, flick you off, as they say in English, So, when these are prominent, as meat eating and let's say, abusing women and liquor and sex indulgence, when these are prominent in society by God's grace, one can expect a change in the social order by the Lord himself or by his bona fide representative. So, we should understand this great, let's say, responsibility of at least being Krishna conscious in your family. At least that. If you can't do more than that, it's okay. But then, to do more than that is a sign of real, let's say, determination to see a change in the sinful activities of people. But just practicing Krishna consciousness in your family and protecting your children and husband and wife cooperating with each other to have a spiritual life, following the regulative principles, that in itself is a great accomplishment. And it's possible in this age. Why? Because Chinvata Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyan Taksto Bhadrani Vidunati Suhit Satam. The Lord is going to protect you. The Lord is going to give you knowledge. The Lord is going to make sure you make the right decisions, because you're always chanting the holy names, because you're chanting them without any material benefit. And we're not karma yogis. Yes, I will chant Hare Krishna, but I want in return, my business should do better, my kids should get into Harvard and Stanford, and this thing, and that thing, all kinds of material desires. Okay, are there any questions? Okay, we'll go on to the next verse. Somebody can read. You don't have to read the Sanskrit, just the English.
Translation. At that time, the Lord of the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the well-wisher of all living entities, will descend and kill them, just as Indra smashes the mountains with his thunderbolts. The purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.8, the Lord descends as an incarnation to deliver the devotees and kill the miscreants. The Lord of the universe and of everything would appear to kill the sons of Diti because of their offending the devotees of the Lord. There are many agents of the Lord, such as Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Goddess Durga, and Kali, who can chastise any formidable miscreants in the world. The example of mountains being smashed by a thunderbolt is very appropriate. The mountain is considered the most strongly built body within the universe, yet it can be easily smashed by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need to descend in order to kill any strongly built body. He comes down just for the sake of his devotees. Everyone is subject to the miseries offered by material nature. But because the activities of miscreants, such as killing innocent people and animals, or torturing women, are harmful to everyone, and are therefore a source of pain for the devotees, the Lord comes down. He descends only to give relief to his ardent devotees.
Ardent means those who are really enthusiastic and very serious to follow the rules and regulations.
The killing of the miscreant by the Lord is also the mercy of the Lord towards the miscreant. Although apparently the Lord takes the side of the devotee, since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his activities of killing the miscreants and favoring the devotees.
Both ways are beneficial. For the miscreants who are killed by the Lord, they go back to Godhead also. Or at least they get a chance of, they get purified because they come in contact with the Lord. And the devotees, of course, they are also in contact with the Lord, but in the most positive way because of love and devotion. So everybody is benefited, whether they are killed by the Lord or protected by the Lord. This is called transcendental knowledge. In the material world, there are winners and losers. In the spiritual world, there are only winners and no losers. Yeah. So what could be better than that? But of course, it's better not to be a demon. But if you're going to be a demon, then being killed by Krishna is the best thing that could happen, the best thing that could ever happen to you. Okay, any questions about that?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, ma'am.
Just curious that as we are saying, there are many agents of the Lord, such as Indra, Chandra, Varuna, and many other demigods. Why the other religions do not have? Like in Christianity, we talk only about Jesus.
No, they have angels.
Okay.
And there's specific people that are empowered, just like the demigods in Christianity. If you go to a Catholic church, they have pictures of all these different saints.
Mm.
And also, you have in Christianity warriors who are trying to protect, Christianity, and then you have also warriors who are demons. So it's not completely the same, but it's very close.
So they also consider they are the agents of Jesus Christ, or?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
You have armies of righteous people and armies of demons
Hmm.
in Christianity. Yeah. You see, where do all these religions come from? They have a beginning. That means they're not eternal. Whereas the Srimad Bhagavatam and the information about the demigods, Krishna, there's no beginning of that history. It's eternal. So obviously, the other religions that start, like Islam or Christianity, Judaism, and so forth, they have their own history of a beginning, whereas in Sanatana Dharma there's no beginning of it. It's eternal. So they're going to imitate things that are in, Sanatana Dharma. They might not be perfect, but you're going to imitate them. But you'll see the eventual disappearance of these different religions, either quickly or over a long period of time, because they have faults in them. Just like yesterday, Ramani, she was mentioning different things. Basically, what she was saying was that, well, the doctors and the people that advise others for marriage and marriage problems and things like that, they recommend regulated sex. Do any of them recommend chastity? No. So the one thing that's the cause of the problem, they're saying, well, you could solve that problem by regulating it. So that's not really a solution. That's just making the problem worse. But I don't know. I never hear anyone talk about chastity, except maybe the Christians and the Muslims. I'm sure they do a little bit, not that much. The Christians talk about chastity because they have their nuns. They have a lot of their priests are supposed to be chaste. Although we see, if you look in the news, their priests are, there's a large number of them that are corrupt, that are engaging in illicit activities, although they're not supposed to do that. Right? So here we have a lot of deviation going on. And then the so-called marriage counselors and so forth, they don't recommend chastity. You see, so therefore, if you want to have a healthy life, if you want to have a happy life, if you want to have a peaceful life, then husband and wife should determine how many children they want, and then spend the rest of their life raising those children to be good devotees. That's what you would call the progressive aspect of sex life. It's not repeating sex over and over again. It's planning to have sex according to religious principles, and then spend the rest of your life training those children to be good persons. And husband and wife together make spiritual advancement and can go back to Godhead and have an eternal spiritual existence. There are many couples in the spiritual world, many, many couples. How did they get there? They didn't get there by having regulated sex. They got there by following rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, and then spending the time and effort to train their children to be good persons, to be devotees, and then working together to spread Krishna consciousness. So therefore, that's the real life. That's the real solution. That's what is recommended by Krishna himself. So we should not be misled by all these different sexologists and psychiatrists, and they're all mostly bogus people. And their founders, like Freud and so forth, they're all bogus. Okay.
Maharaj, just to add on to it, even in the Yoga Sutras, so in the Yama Niyama, one of the things is brahmacharya. One of the component is brahmacharya, to be chaste. And even in Yoga Sutras, Patanjali mentions that yogis go longer life because of brahmacharya.
Absolutely.
So it is really not recommended in the scriptures, not just Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the fruit, but even in other scriptures where the goal of your life is to uplift from your Muladhara chakra to eventually reach Bhagwan. So,
well, see now, let's look at this in the perspective. There is yoga, right? Which is, if you're actually going to follow it, very strict, very difficult in this age. Then there's Krishna consciousness, as established by Lord Chaitanya, where you don't have all that vigorous, very difficult things that you have to do. If we go through a list of it, you'd be discouraged because you say, well, how am I going to do all these things? It's not possible in this age. So, yes, there is Patanjali's yoga system and so forth. But we don't have to go through that. First of all, almost no one can follow all of it. Almost impossible in this age. Secondly, Lord Chaitanya has made it so easy to be liberated from the cycle of birth and death and become purified and engage in happy and progressive Krishna consciousness. So why not take that path? That's something you can do. And the husband and wife together and with their kids, you can have a wonderful and very, let's say, blissful life. Right? So let's not see, when we get into all this yoga business, anyway, they're not following anything anyway, but if you try and follow it in a traditional way, it's almost impossible. I say almost impossible. There might be a few people who can do those things, but it's very very doubtful. I mean, can you do all those things? I mean, meditating.
Maharaj, not all the poses you can ever see, but I can strictly say the discipline comes really easier. The attentiveness comes little more with the practice of asana. You're able to analyze things little faster, and the presence of moment is a little more. At least in my case, Maharaj, that's how much I can say. The yamas or niyamas are really hard, and they dwell into our devotional service really well. Like you being like ahimsa, dharana, non-hoarding, you're not asking for things. They are purely Krishna consciousness, if you really follow them. There is absolutely, I did not see any difference. But the end goal is where I see the difference. The goal of yoga line, the clarity in there is missing from what I understood from Krishna consciousness.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's fine. You have personal experience. You see certain benefits in performing yoga. And, but the final, let's say, result may not be reached because there's lacking pure love and devotion. And that's exactly what Lord Chaitanya is teaching, pure love and devotion. Without that, everything else will be incomplete.
True, Maharaj. Very true. The one thing which attracted me really was the love towards Krishna, which was not mentioned in any of the sutras I have read. They definitely talk about as now.
Achievements, like you, different levels of austerity and so forth. Yeah, go ahead.
And there are places where you can practically feel it. Like, for example, you have also mentioned about the sheets of our body, right? Like Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha. So you can feel them, and that's where you establish the connection. But in order to go from there, you don't know the path, or you don't have the right teacher to tell you in this modern time. So where am I leading to? What am I really focusing on? And there is disconnectivity from there.
Well, therefore, take the best and leave the rest.
That's absolutely right.
Why take the hard path that doesn't really end up with pure love and devotion when you have the easy path? You can chant, you can dance, you can feast, you can express your love and devotion to the Lord and share that with other people. Why would anyone not want to do that? But anyway, thank you for those points. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, ma'am.
There is a line in this purport that says, the killing of the miscreant by the Lord is also the mercy of the Lord towards the miscreant.
Yes.
Forgive me if I'm not saying this the right way, but is it basically Lord giving a reset, like blank slate for the miscreant to start over in their next life? Is it referring to that?
Anything that comes in contact with Krishna becomes purified. Whether it's a pure devotee or whether it's a demon. And you're going to see, as you keep reading, you're going to see this, what you would call transcendental miracle, that even the worst person can become purified. Why? Because they come in contact with the Lord. Just like the sun can dry up stool and urine and purify it. Does the sun get contaminated by it? No. Does the stool and urine get purified? Yes. So anything that touches Krishna will become purified. Even the worst person. And then we're going to see that there's a major difference now, you'll see, between the Abrahamic religions, which means Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, and Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, even if you go to hell, you can make spiritual progress and become liberated. In those other religions, their concept of hell is there's no salvation. You're stuck forever, or you're killed, or you're going to suffer forever. So we see that Krishna is a very merciful God. The Supreme Personality of God is the most merciful. And the most merciful is Lord Chaitanya, who's made it so easy for anyone to become Krishna conscious. So why not take the path given by Lord Chaitanya? Why waste any time with these other paths? So your question was, the question is going to be answered as we keep reading. That actually, anyone that comes in contact with Krishna will become purified, even if they're the worst person. So you're going to see he's going to kill Hiranyaksha, he's going to kill Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, but actually they get purified. And there's a history behind both of those persons, so we'll get to that soon. Okay, any other questions? We're going to stop there. I have a doctor's appointment today. So like I said, today's a very auspicious day. I want to thank all of you that have participated in making it possible. And there's many more opportunities to make more things possible. So, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.